I hope everyone's well, and today we're going to talk about shadow trapunto. I finished the one from last week. As you can see, once you do the stitching on the top, it looks really, really good. So just to recap, what we did last week is that we drew my design on, whatever design you want to use, using a thick batting, and it's got to be polyester for trapunto. Normally when I'm doing machine quilting, I don't like polyester for general quilting because of the fact that it's slippery, fabric can slide around on it. So, but for this, it's perfect. You want the highest loft you can get. You can put several layers of these together if you like, and then you draw your design on, and then get a good shadow. Put it in the shadows, you can get a decent view of it. Here's my pattern in the leaves, so I drew this on the front of it. I put this underneath. I put regular thread in my bobbin. In the needle, I am using Superior Threads Vanish Extra. They make two different kinds. They make Vanish and they make Vanish Extra. Extra just takes a little more water and steam in order to make it go away. But it's a little stronger. It doesn't break as much. But the regular Vanish is easier to remove. Another good one is Wash Away Extra by YLI. That's another really good one. And then you're going to use whatever regular thread in your bobbin. You don't need it in both places. Mostly because once you put your sandwich together, that extra thread, once the top dissolves away, the extra that's underneath will just go into the batting. So no big deal. So, and then what I did was when I put the design down, I wrote it here, I just drew it on here, and then I stitched inside. If you can see really close, there's one that's a good, I don't know if you can see really close, that I've stitched inside the line with the invisible thread. See right here? And then after you're done stitching the outer perimeter of your design, I didn't stitch all this inside, I just did the outline of it. Then I turned it over and I stitched away, and I just cut away the excess batting. Then you put your quilt sandwich together with your regular batting, and that I used a cotton. My favorite is my cotton and backing. Put my regular thread into the needle and then just started stitching it. Here's where the magic happens. Let's see. This is that, I got this new one. It's called Water Erasing Styler by Soline. It's a nice pen. It did a nice dark mark. Let's see how easily it goes away. So I'm just going to hit it with some water. Quite a bit of water. Or just be patient. I have no patience. And so it's starting to go away. And, okay, I'm starting to see. Okay. I think I have blue chalk underneath of it. I'm going to have to wash the whole thing to get all the blue out. But now all of the wash away thread is gone. And see, it's gone now. And therefore it just dissolved. And see how this is just gone out. It was kind of smashed along the side. Now it's just one line along the edge. And it's just that easy to remove, that easy to do. And it really makes things look pretty. So I think this was the one this is the one we usually do in a classroom. And I call this one Snowfall. I've also done this one as a shadow trapunto. What is shadow trapunto? That means you're going to put some color behind. Here is a project I have started in shadow trapunto. I don't know what I did with all my samples. They're still in a box in the basement somewhere. But see, now all of the colors are muted. The tree is trapuntoed. The candy ribbon here is trapuntoed. And then I can embellish, and this is shadow work there. This is from a fabric that had Christmas stuff on it, and I just cut them out, and I'll show you how to do shadow, because it's really easy. And so here's what we do. Okay, I have I'm going to do the same pattern that we did last time, which is the right side, okay? Right here, okay? It's best to use a really, really thin fabric like a cotton batiste where you can just virtually see through it. Like, here's some, I mean, really, you can pretty much see through it. It's very, very sheer. It's opaque, not really sheer. Because sheers, you don't want to use a sheer fabric because that's too much. You can see through it too easily. So I drew my design. Okay, I want to do the same design, but this time I want to see color. So here's my pattern pieces. And I just, here's the leaf. So I cut them out. Okay, and then you want to use really bright fabric. You can use fleece. This is an orange fleece. This one's really neat because when you use this and you put it behind the fabric, it comes out as a really pretty peach color. So that's one of my samples, is done using this bright ugly orange, but once you put it behind here, it's a soft peach. I don't know if you can't really tell. Let me see. Oh, here's the other thing I was telling you about last week. What you need to have is a good pair of sharp scissors. These are my favorite because the tips are blunt. These are scissors that you use to cut baby fingernails, but I had Dick sharpen them, and they're wonderful because now you don't poke through. Because my second favorite to use is a curved, because it's harder to poke through, because these sharp edges can poke right through and you're going to make a hole in the front of your quilt. That's not a good thing. So what I did with this, there's two ways you can do this. You can put your fabric behind like this, wherever your pattern is, and we'll do this in a little bit, and stitch with the wash away, trim it away, then put your batting, just like you did with the regular technique that we did last week. The only difference is we're using colored fleece. The problem I had with fleece and fabrics is the little teeny bits of thread that will break loose, and they'll be all over the place, and they are a devil to get rid of. So what I like to do instead is to cut my pieces out first, and you can use ordinary fabric. It's got to be overly bright, way overly bright. And then, like, here's a piece of red here, okay, and you just cut it out, and then I'm just going to cut the outline out. You can do it this way, and I just traced it on. Let me cut this out. This is a piece of flannel. Again, this would leave these little bits. Now these I will cut the shape. Now same thing with those little Christmas candies that were on the Christmas Trapunto that I'm working on. Those were in the fabric, and I just cut them out. And I only had to rough cut them out because the background was white, so I just sort of cut around it. You'll have to look really, really close. Here's my pieces. Now, when I'm layering this behind here, and I could use, well, I'm going to use my favorite thing in the whole wide world, my glue stick. Let's see, sort of get that to match up. Yeah, that's close enough. Okay, so I'm just going to put a few dots of glue. And I'm not necessarily, I don't think it's necessary to heat set it down, although I could, but I didn't turn on the iron, so didn't turn on the iron anyway. Okay, whatever you want to show up front. Alrighty, I got that just right before, there we go. You put down first, whatever's on the top will be first, and then I will put the leaves in. Now what I didn't want to do was put the leaves on first because I would see the stem stick out over here. So I'm going to Glue stick again. That's all I need. I don't need much for this. Put the brightest side down. Get on there. And just put it in place. I'm hoping it's about this. Now, if you don't get it exact, it's okay. You don't have to get it exact. Boy, this is really off, isn't it? I drew it funny. And just a little bit of glue here just to hold it so it won't flop any later. Okay. Stick. Okay. And now get the batting. I'm just going to set that on top. Flip it over and then set your machine up. Now I'm using the wash away thread and I'm just going to stitch the outline. Okay, again. Now, because I'm using the wash away thread in my needle, I'm going to want to turn that tension down. So I'm going to just start. Pull up like normal. Again, I'm just going to go. Now, my outline's a little different. I'm seeing the green on this bottom one in a little bit of different place. So I'm going to follow the green, not what I drew. Same thing, I'm going to follow the red. And I'm stitching, oh, I was supposed to, I didn't. I stitched pretty much on the line. I'm just stitching on the line. So this is nice because you don't have to be that careful, and I'm following the green, not where I've stitched. I'll have to fix that when I do the final stitching. Okay, done. Okay. I'm cheating. Small piece. Okay, there we go. Alrighty. Then you're going to turn this over. And here's my favorite scissors. Like this. And I'm going to trim it away. This is going to give it the loft that it's going to need to give it the puffiness. Okay, now that's, cut that chunk I missed. Now you can see the color. I don't know if you can see that color shining through. And then you quilt it. You would put your batting on the top and you would quilt, just quilt it normal. Okay. Another thing you can do, like to do shadow work, not necessarily shadow trapunto. It's only trapunto if you put stuffing behind it. And shadow work is what you're going to see here, which is the, these are just the little candies that I cut out of the fabric and put it behind here. This, I used a piece of green, I think it's just green fabric, some brown fabric, and some yellow fabric. And I cut them out first because a lot of times, like if you use the fleece and you do your cutting afterwards, I found little fleece bits all over the place and it really didn't look nice at all. So I it's easier to cut them out ahead of time, get all the fluff and stuff off of them, and then glue them in. Then put your batiste on the top, and then stitch away, and then cut your trapunto out, and then put your regular batting on. Like here's a piece of batiste. You have what we call inverse trapunto or inverse shadow. So what will be shadowed will be what's in the background. So I'm just going to take a little piece of this, put my fleece, and I'm going to put my polyester batting underneath. I might use a thinner one, and that's fine too. Okay, so I'm going to stitch in my shape, and I'm just going to do a square or some other shape, nothing fancy here. Okay, we're going to put this circle in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to come over to the end, pull up my bobbin thread, and do circle. Now when you're doing ruler work, you want to keep your hands, you want to always use two hands. Position it, or put the needle down, thank you. Position my ruler, because what you can accidentally do is hit your ruler, and then you end up breaking a needle and possibly damaging your machine. So I like to put sandpaper dots underneath of my ruler so that it'll help stay. Always use two hands. I don't use gloves. I hate gloves. So, but I do use these. Sometimes I'll use something like this to help hold it still, and it helps to grip it. So anyway, here we go. I'm just going to go. I can even go around a few times. Whoops. When you get that squeak, you're pushing too hard. Okay, and I'm done. Okay, and I'm going to remove this, but whatever you do not step on that pedal. Okay, now I'm going to just flip it. And now I'm going to turn it over, and where did I put this? Here's my snub nose scissors. I have two layers here. When I have two layers, I like to cut one at a time, but you could cut them both. Okay, take that, and now what you could do with this is really a lot of fun, is that you're going to take a bright colored fabric, and I'll just use this one, say this is my quilt. Put my fabric down, and now you can see, let me cut this out. Oops. Okay, and I need a piece of batting, regular batting, behind the colored fabric, and then I want to use a backing. I need a backing. And then this is my quilt sandwich. Okay. And I could have cut closer, because notice here, see how you can see really close? And you can see now. Remember, this is wash away thread, so I really don't care. And this time I'm going to change my thread to just, I use white Aurifil. And I'm changing thread, so I'm going to test. And I probably need to go much tighter. I don't see any loops. No loops there. Looks good. Supposedly I stitched inside of the line that I drew for the pattern. Now this time I'm going to stitch on the right at the edge of it. I should have brought that thread up. I'm being a lot more careful to catch it. then you quilt on the outside. Oh, let's see, what do I want to do? I'm just going to do some wild stippling because it's fast. Okay. And I'll cut this bit off. Oh, let's pretend I got this straight. And I'm going to now notice here, right there, see? I have a double line. This is my original stitching with the wash away thread. So, and you saw I got it off. Just want to dissolve the thread. See, and the Vanish Extra takes a little bit longer to dissolve. By the way, if you're doing this, you want to wash your fabric first, especially this pink. It's hard. Well, let me see. There we go. See, now that I'm washing it, that pink is bleeding into it. Well, that could be it. Yeah, so again, always want to, whenever you're doing anything that you know you're going to have to erase the lines, if I'm using a blue pen, if I'm going to know that water's going to hit that quilt for any reason, I'm going to want to wash that fabric first. And if I do applique, I always wash the fabric first, and you keep washing it until everything dries, everything runs clear in the water. Because now, as you can see, I've got pink bleeding out from the edges onto the batiste, the cotton batiste. It'll dry. It's okay. This is just a sample piece. If this were a real quilt that I was working on and it was looking like that, I'd be upset if it bled, unless I'm wanting to get some kind of weird mottled effect, which that would work too. It's wet. Let me dry it with the iron and see what happens. I just got a little pressing mat. And here's the red. And let's dry this with the iron. Oh yeah. And you'll see what it's going to look like. Sometimes if you dry things with the iron, it helps keep it from bleeding as badly. If you dry it real close right away. And cotton batiste does dry quickly. Steam, steam, steam. And also this steam's going to get rid of the rest of that wash away thread. So anyway, because I'm doing all this applique, and the applique can bleed. And in fact, my very first show quilt that I did, I had sent it off and it got dirty. So, and I had all this applique all over it, and I also had had Brazilian embroidery on it as well, which is done with rayon threads. And you know, rayon's notorious for bleeding, so I washed it. And wherever I had red, it bled all the way through to the back, and I was most upset. Oh, I was very upset. So, you know, since then, if I'm going to applique, I'm going to, also I've had the applique fabrics shrink more than the background fabrics, and that's not a good thing either. So whenever I'm doing applique, even if it's a little bit, I'm going to put it in the sink under as hot water as I can stand it. And I just use ordinary dish soap, and I wash it out, or shampoo or something, and you keep washing it until you don't see any color. And the colors that are the worst about bleeding is purple, is actually red. Red is your worst color. And you see it's bled all the way. Pink is just light red. And this is a hot pink, and it has bled all the way through to the back. So this is some pretty potent dye. And oddly enough, I've been working on something that required a lot of stems, so I pre-shrank it, and it was green batik. And usually I have no problems at all with high quality batik. And it took like 8 washings to get it to stop looking like Christmas tree green water. And I was very surprised about the green. I knew I'll have trouble sometimes with blacks, but anyway, I wash even the little bits for applique. Then as they are still wet, I'm going to put them under a hot iron and dry them with the iron, because that'll cause it to shrink as much as it's going to shrink. And then you don't have any problems. Yeah, here we go. Now it's dry. But you have this white underneath. And yes, it's just a simple ball, but you get the idea. So it gives you the opposite effect. You either have trapunto where the trapunto sticks out, and you can do it with color like you would with this piece. Here's the trapunto with color, shadow trapunto with color, shadow trapunto with inverse color. So you can get some very interesting effects. But I like to do trapunto, and I especially love to do trapunto in corners. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, next week we're going to do what we call yarn trapunto, which is a really fun way. It can be done either as a shadow or it can be done with the same color. And this is adding trapunto after everything is quilted and everything is done. I'd like to see your work doing some trapunto. Please shoot me a picture of it, and I'd love to see it. We learn so much more from each other than you will ever learn from me. So anyway, you guys have a good week and keep sewing. Bye.